is Mary Motaro. I'm the Registrar of Marriages in the Department of the Registrar General. Marriages is one of the units under the department, so I head the unit of marriages, which is based not only in Nairobi, but in the outer stations as well.
My name is Victor Okutoi Wabuyube. I'm a senior state counsel currently attached to marriages section. And in relation to our office presence, the Office of the Registrar of Marriages has actually decentralized most of the services. Like today, you can get married in any of the counties, the 47 counties. We do have 11 regional offices. We have Mombasa, there is Malindi, there is Nyeri, there is Embu, there is Nakuru, there is Eldoret, there is Kisumu, there is also Kamega, and our office in Kisii. Those are the Aegis offices in the regions. In areas where we don't have presence, we've actually gazetted deputy county commissioners. So in every county where we don't have an office, you can actually access a marriage service by going to the headquarters. The deputy county commissioners in that headquarters, they're actually offering marriage services. And we also having plans to go up to the sub-county level, but that is work in progress, and once we do that, we shall actually notify the public.
The role of marriages is actually defined and given power by the Marriage Act, Section 50, which introduces or which gives effect to the Office of the Registrar of Marriages, which wasn't there in the past, and it gives it designate functions, among which is to register all marriages, register civil marriages, determine objections to marriages. You know, marriages can have objections, whether you are doing a civil, a Christian, a Hindu, there can be objections. That it is our role to determine objections. We also issue documents we call certificates of no impediment to marriages for people who intend to get married outside Kenya, among other functions.
In relation to the types of marriages, we actually have the 5 recognized types of marriages. The most prominent, we have the civil and Christian marriages, which majority of the people subscribe to. We also have customary marriages. These are normally our traditional marriages where people pay dowry, and there's actually some exchange of a token, and the customs are recognized. We also have Hindu marriages, which is actually, these are marriages which being solemnized under the Hindu faith. And we also have Muslim marriages for our Muslim brothers and sisters. And in relation to recognition, all marriages have equal recognition under the law. So whether you've gotten married under Muslim law, under Hindu law, customary, or under civil, they all have equal status in law. Save for the fact that customary marriages are polygamous in nature, and also Muslim marriages under the law. But in terms of civil, Christian, and Hindu marriages, they only recognize one man and one wife, but they have equal recognition under the law. So the only distinction is, for instance, if you profess the Christian faith, that is when you now are supposed to go to the church for purposes of solemnizing that marriage. If you profess the Hindu faith, ordinarily you're supposed to go to the Hindu temples or the Hindu priests for purposes of solemnization. Those who profess the Muslim faith, also they go to the Qadis, the Mukis under the Khan. We also have the Sheikh, the Imams, all those, but they have to be licensed. So before you get married, there's also the process of licensing. This person marrying you is the person recognized under the law as a marriage officer. But all those centers serve as marriage centers. In relation to civil marriages, we do all of them. You can have 2 Christians getting married, and in the registrar's office. You can also have 2 Muslims, you can also have 2 Indians getting married. We do allow that. Yes, for instance, when the requirements for Hindu, civil and Christian marriages, they're actually similar. We first look at identification. Whom are we dealing with? You've come to office to get married. The question is, have you attained the age of majority? This is where we look at 18 and above. You must produce your ID telling us, I'm a Kenyan, I was born this year, and I attained the age of 18 at this time, so allow me to proceed to get married. So the first thing is your identification document, your ID. And secondly, we also look at your passport size photo, which is a requirement even under the online system. And in terms of Christian marriages, we also need to confirm that the pastor is licensed. So we also need a copy of the license of the pastor, just to confirm that what the process you are undertaking is genuine and legal from the onset. We don't want a scenario where you've gotten married, then you come back and tell him that, look, your pastor is not licensed. Actually, a marriage that has been done by someone who is not licensed is actually not valid. And it's actually a criminal offense under the law. When you talk of the Hindu marriages, also the Hindu priests, we've licensed them, several around the country. So they also have to give you a license. Another thing we look at is the serial number of the book. We've done the licensing process, but the question is, this person who wants to marry you, is the person having a marriage book? So you come in the serial number where we do confirmation. In terms of the prices, you place a notice, which goes for three weeks, which is 21 days, and you pay 600 shillings. After 21 days, you only add 800. Meaning, if you're getting married in church or in a Hindu temple and you are both Kenyans, you only pay 1,400. 600 for the notice, 800 for the registrar's certificate. If you're getting married under civil marriage, you only need your ID and passport size photo, and you'll pay 600 the initial notice fee, and then you are going to add 3,300. So if you're getting married in the registrar's office or DC's office, the cost is 3,900. I know many will wonder why the difference, why the gap, that in church it is 1,400, but in the civil registrar's office is actually 3,900. There are other processes that we undertake. For instance, if you're getting married in church, we'll give you a document to take to the pastor saying that we've cleared you to get married. But here, you have to also do the solemnization part, which has an extra cost. We also have to give you a marriage certificate, which has an extra cost. So that's why it's a bit higher for civil marriage, but lower for Christian and Hindu marriages. In Kenya, we have two processes of getting married. You can either get married through notice or through special license. Notice is what people do. You walk in any office, DC's office or a registrar's office, you place a notice. After 21 days, you come back for the clearance, and you are given a document called the registrar's certificate. So mostly these are the majority of the marriages where both parties are Kenyans. A special license comes in now in 4 instances. For instance, one of the parties doesn't reside in Kenya, or even both parties. You are 2 Kenyans, yes, but maybe you're working in Dubai. You've only been given 2 weeks break to get married or to even visit, but you can also plan to get married. Remember that initially you're supposed to place a 21 days notice, but you only have 14 days. So a special license is normally a waiver of that notice period. So that is the instance where a special license is applied for Kenyans who are not having enough time. The second scenario is where one or both parties is a foreign national. For instance, a Kenyan is getting married to a Ugandan, a Kenyan is getting married to a Tanzanian, a Kenyan is getting married to a German. You cannot place a notice. The reason being, this person has come from Germany all the way. Those so many kilometers far away. If you place a notice in Kenya, their country will not be aware that there is this event taking place in Kenya. The third scenario is where now parties are the marriage is taking place in a garden. Yeah, a garden is where now nowadays you can even get married in your house with special license, which is a special authorization of it. We've seen even people get married in balloons at the Masai Mara. Yeah, so long as it is within the territorial jurisdiction of Kenya, the law allows with the special license. The last scenario is where now you find that we have these churches which are not registered, but they also perform some functions, religious functions. So the reason why they do apply for a license is the pastor is not licensed. They don't have a marriage book. So you are taking a pastor of ACK to maybe a church somewhere, which is a church, yes, out there, but where it's not registered. You may be required to do a special license. So we thought of ways of crowd management and also minimizing interaction to protect our staff and also members of the public. So that is when we went to the eCitizen platform, and as we speak, we've actually uploaded all the services. So you don't need to wake up today go to the registrar's office in Nairobi for an application. This process is actually in Nairobi, but we also plan to roll it out to all the offices. But today, if you are to wake up and come to the office to seek a service, we actually send you back. We'll tell you go to eCitizen, which is a simple application, oag.ecitizen.go.ke for the applications.
To witness.
To witness.
That I, Duncan Mutuma Kaburu.
That I, Duncan Mutuma Kaburu.
Do take you, Catherine Manja Ngari.
Do take you, Catherine Manja Ngari.
To be my lawful.
Filing is actually an essential component of the marriage process. It's actually a basic process of it, and it actually confirms finalization of the process. For instance, we have over 35,000 ministers of faith. I'm talking of now, this is a combination. Pastors, priests, the sheikh, the imams, the Hindu priests who are in charge of the Hindu temples, all that. There are over 35,000. And as we said earlier, the Registrar of Marriages only gives authorization to get married at your respective place. So we don't have control of all the religious places. We only issue authorization telling you, person A and B, you've been allowed to go to this place for purpose of getting married. So the question is, we gave you authorization to get married. Did the marriage take place? You can confirm that by filing the return. Filing of return is actually surrender of the original marriage certificate or copy. We do have 3 marriage certificates on a wedding day. So on the appointed day that A and B are getting married, there'll be 3 copies of the marriage certificate. These 3 copies have the same serial number and the same entry number. They are just triplicates. So what happens, 1 copy is supposed to be given to the parties, the bride and the groom. The second copy is supposed to be left in the church. And the third copy is actually supposed to be deposited with the registrar for filing. The reason why it's important, you can get married today. You can even leave the country, go to, maybe you've gone to maybe to Britain for work, for school and all that. And you've presented your certificate that you got in church. If your pastor or your priest didn't surrender that copy, if the British government was trying to ask confirming whether you are married or not, we don't have that record. So it's a basic requirement. Immediately you've finalized or you've completed the marriage process as a pastor or as a party or as a couple, ensure that we've received the copy for filing and for future reference. A certified copy is actually a document that confirms that your marriage has been registered. And it's actually used on various occasions. For instance, if you get married today and you're supposed to go to any embassy, you want maybe a visa as a spouse, they'll first confirm whether that marriage is registered. The confirmation is actually the issuance of that certified copy. It's actually a blue copy and it's only signed by the Registrar of Marriages. Another scenario it is used, for instance, when you're applying for an HIF or when you're applying for a passport, you also need a certified copy. So the difference between a certified copy and a marriage certificate is only issued once. You can only get married once. But you can generate as many certified copies as you want based on your need. And it's only valid for 1 year. So for instance, you got married, you've gone to the embassy, they want a certified copy, come and apply. It's also online on the eCitizen. You want to renew a passport, they want maybe to confirm marriage, you come and apply for another one. You want to take a mortgage as a spouse, you also get another certified copy. So they're issued on numerous occasions. But the purpose is to confirm that your marriage is registered. Another instance where it is applicable is you've had people talk of losing a marriage certificate. So if you've lost your copy, that's not the end of the marriage process or recognition. The registrar is having copies of your marriage, and you can actually get a certified copy confirming that even though you lost your copy, we actually have your copy here. Your records are existing.
The process of divorce does not take place at the office of the Registrar of Marriages, contrary to the opinion of many people, because a lot of people come here, since they got married here, they come to ask us to tell them how the process of divorce will be. So if you are married in the registrar's office, if the marriage has fallen apart, and God forbid, people are expected to go to the High Court Family Division to register their divorces. And it is only after the end of the divorce process that the final divorce document, which is called the decree absolute, is forwarded to the Registrar of Marriages for our record keeping. In fact, that is one of the documents we are supposed to have, all marriages and all divorces. So that in case you are divorced, we need to merge your marriage certificate with your divorce document so that we can cancel out the marriage and now declare you have now capacity to marry again. So that is the only role we play in divorce, keeping the records of divorce.
Adoption is normally provided under the Children Act of 2001 of Kenya, and it plays just a role of transferring parental rights and responsibilities. For instance, you find we've had cases where a child has been abandoned in hospitals. We've seen bins, others even at bus stations and such. So what the government has done, they have come up with a mechanism of ensuring, remember, every child is entitled to parental care. Even the government has a duty to care for that child. So what happens in adoption, whenever that parental care is lacking from biological parents, there is a law that deals with now transfer of that rights and responsibilities. And you've seen people go to children homes to adopt children. We even have family adoptions where someone can adopt a sister's kid, a brother's kid. We've seen even brothers, you can adopt your brother. The law is actually open. But there are some basics. For instance, you cannot adopt when you are over 65 years. And also there's also the gap. For instance, you must be 25 years old for you to adopt. So you don't expect a 23, 24-year-old filing for an adoption. And the gap between the child and the adopter has to be at least 21 years. So these are legal provisions. Remember that these are MPs who sat and saw the need to legislate on these provisions. So those are the basics. And again, there is the requirement that this child has to be declared free for adoption. You can never start an adoption process until the child is free for adoption. So we do have agencies which have been licensed for that work. Their work is to assess child A, child B, and they give a certificate whether this child can be adopted or not. There's also an involvement of the Director of Children's Services who now do an assessment on the adopters. For instance, someone wants to adopt a child. What are they? Is the person capable of adopting? Is the person having a criminal record? Because if you're having a criminal record, which in relation to child rights violation, of course you can never be given a child to adopt. You've been convicted of a child offense. Again, you want to adopt. Most cases, the court will decline. But it's normally a court process where you file in the High Court of Kenya. The High Court of Kenya has the mandate to determine, anywhere in Kenya, to determine objections, to determine adoptions. So what happens, once there is the declaration that the child is free for adoption, and there is a report from the Director of Children's Services, and you've actually gone to the High Court and gotten an adoption order. Now, the Registrar General's office comes in to do the registration. So you shall be given an adoption certificate, which goes for actually 100 shillings only. And once you have the adoption certificate, you now proceed to the Registry of Birth, where you get a birth certificate in now your name as the adopter, and if you have changed the name of the child, also now the new name is inserted.